Hello and welcome to this hashtag Business Talk webinar from the University of Portsmouth. Today's topic is convincing my customers that my products and supply chain are sound. Joining me on the webinar are Faz Ahmed, the co-owner of the Akash Curry House. Beg your pardon, Faz there. Faz, you just want to introduce yourself?
Yeah, my name's Faz Ahmed. I was an alumni as well, studied at the university. I own an Indian restaurant with my brother, who was also an alumni, and we have a spice business as well, a new curry by eye spice business. So yeah, in that food sector, really.
Okay, thank you, Faz. And also joining us on the webinar is lecturer Liz Sharples, who's a retail and tourism specialist. Liz, do you want to just introduce yourself?
Thanks very much, Pete. Yeah, I'm Liz. I'm Senior Teaching Fellow at the university, and my background is in hospitality, tourism, and in the retail sector. I've worked for British Airways, for Thomas Cook, for Thompson, for P&O, and sort of customer service, the management, and just running the business, behind the scenes, but also front of house as well.
And at the moment, joining us by text is also Benjamin Harraway, who's the general manager at Portico. So Ben's going to participate by text, and at a certain point later on, I'll see if I can bring him into video to answer some questions specifically around what's happening at the port, what they're seeing in terms of goods coming in from abroad as well as from around the UK. So we will kick off with the Q&A. And the way it's going to work today is I will ask the questions of the presenters. Attendees, if you want to, you can participate using the chat box, which is typically on the right-hand side of your screen, and members of my team are keeping an eye on that, and they will feed any questions or any obvious queries that come of that out to me so that we can ask those of the presenters as well. So before we get started, Faz, I wanted to come to you as somebody who's in the retail sector, as somebody who's an entrepreneur, a small business owner, and just really ask the question, what surprises are you seeing at the moment? What's happening that's perhaps unusual or that you didn't expect, and perhaps what's not happening that you did expect to happen? What's going on?
Well, I would say the surprise is the unpredictability. So when Boris first said avoid restaurant and pubs, it just went, our business declined by 75%. We kind of tried everything, put anti-bac on each table. We put tissues, and people just weren't sort of coming out. They were very scared. We were in unknown territory. I mean, as soon as we saw that, we kind of thought, we've got to cut our cost. So 3 weeks went very quiet. And then when lockdown hit, and then I think a week after lockdown, it was end of the month, and it went absolutely crazy. The takeaway, the deliveries, everything. We were very, very unprepared because we had such a quiet 3 weeks to go from that to one weekend where we've had to disconnect our phone lines, turn our online off. We had to it just went mad. And I said, we would not be able to cope, just disconnect everything. So it was the unpredictability. Now we've got a little bit of stability now. We've had to change our business completely. I think I spoke to our vegetable guy, and he supplies 95% restaurants, and he hit the nail on the head when he said it's almost like starting a new business. So our opening times have changed because we're doing only deliveries and takeaways now. So you don't have that clientele who have gone out for dinner, who have gone out to theatres or gone down the pub, and then they're going to have a curry later. They're eating with their kids early. So we're open earlier, but we're closed earlier now. So we've had to change so much. We brought in Uber Eats, Just Eat have come in. We never bothered with them because of the hefty commission they took. So we concentrate more on eating in. Our margins are better on eating in. So whatever takeaway we got previously was just kind of seen as a bonus, really. But now it's our core business. It is our only business. So it's difficult because the thing is everything's packaged, so it's more expensive. We've got delivery drivers, we're doing free delivery. Generally, takeaway prices are cheaper than eating in. So we've had to face a lot of issues. We had to sort of let go of quite a few staff, and we had to get some back in. So it's just been, the unpredictability, really, and we're still trying to kind of predict. I mean, it's end of the month now this weekend, and I'm thinking, how crazy is it going to be? But generally, I think the biggest surprise has been is me and my brother, we had board meetings with kind of my dad, we've been really good. Like, he's retired, but you know, we've never been in a situation like this. So it's always good to have him there. So we're like, look, Dad, you know, we're like grown men, married men, but we're like going back to our dad and saying, we don't know what to do. We're like, this is happening and that's happening. And it's just good because he had his business for 40 years, the restaurant, and he came through recessions and stuff. And so it's really good guidance. And we're like, look, we don't know what to do. We don't know what to do. That, you know, this is happening, that's happening. So he just guided us and said, look, try this. He didn't leave the house. He just said, look, try this. Let's do this. Let's do this. And we were having these daily things. And mainly my surprise was we cut back on everything. We thought it's going to go dead because the first 3 weeks went really quiet. Then I think people settled and now they're ordering takeaways. They're thinking, right, okay, well, we've had the COVID-19 situation. We know it's going to be kind of like, you know, this is what's going to happen. I'm still getting paid, or I'm on furlough, or I'm still working. So they still got money. They haven't got anything to spend their money on apart from takeaways and stuff. So we've kind of done okay. So yeah, I mean, every night we're doing okay. We're surviving, heads above water, and I think that's all I can ask for really now. But yeah, I mean, that's been my surprise is people are still purchasing because takeaway is a luxury thing. You know, Tesco's and Asda's your commodity. You've got to eat. They're your basic groceries. So people that are still treating themselves, and I'm glad they still are, and I hope it continues, is keeping us afloat and keeping people employed.
Okay, and just to bring it into the kind of the topic a little bit, how has your supply chain been holding up? So obviously, as a restaurant, you're bringing in fresh fruit, you're bringing in fresh veg, you know, meat and spices and such. How has that held up?
So we kind of, well, I can't take the credit actually. I've got to give it to my brother. He said to me, look, this is going to get really bad, I think. We've got space. We've got quite a big unit here. Order 3 months supply of everything. That is not, like, obviously not your fruit and veg. So yeah, we couldn't order 3 months. So we were kind of thinking, we got it at good price. So while all that panic thing happened, we were okay. We had pallets of rice, we had pallets of spices, we had oil, you know, all that kind of stuff. So we were okay, and lucky we did because things went up, you know, as we know, drastically. And now I think things are dropping slightly. So we were okay in terms of that. But the fruit and veg, I mean, what can I say? I pay for a box of ginger normally £18-20. £65 was a box of ginger last week for me. So it's been difficult because we haven't put our prices up. We kind of want to remain like, you know, they're not taking advantage of the situation. But I think looking at it, we're going to have to creep up, but we're not going to go crazy. You know, we're going to go like 10p a curry or something where people can easily afford it and think, you know, they haven't gone stupid. But, you know, everything has gone up. You know, it's more expensive. Takeaways are generally more expensive to run. You've got drivers, you've got packaging costs, you've got all that kind of stuff. So, yeah, it is difficult. And things like eggs and stuff have been hard to get hold of. And we're quite lucky. Our fruit and veg supplier, he's quite a big supplier. So he's got a good stock base. And we've never really been like, oh, it's hard to get this. And we had the 3 month supply so that we got in. So in terms of us, I think we were quite lucky. My brother was kind of a bit forward thinking and said, look, I do all the ordering. And he kind of said, oh, bring in everything, you know, as much as you can, 3 months. But we ran out of stuff that we ran out of stuff that we didn't expect. So the takeaways have gone crazy. So I didn't order enough takeaway containers, or I didn't order, but we're getting them in and the supply chain's coming in. So we're not, you know, we've not struggled at that really, anything. So maybe later we will, but things have settled. So at the moment we're okay, Peter.
Okay, that's quite nice actually. If I could come to Liz then, because actually we've got a couple of questions that have come through for this webinar, particularly around. One question was, should I buy British? Will that help secure my supply chain better? And there was another question around. It was more clothing related around. Should I be importing things in from the Middle East? And I think Liz has had a chance to look at some of the emerging reports that have had a look. Liz, what's your kind of opinion on is should people go British? Should people continue to lean on abroad, or is it a mixed bag?
I definitely, thanks Peter for that. Thanks Faz for that real interesting point of view about how it's all working with you. It sounds like you've had a really busy and hectic time, but still trading and doing well. So that's brilliant. So thank you very much. But just going back to your point there, Pete, about the British and maybe trading with the Far East, what I would suggest, I mean, my sort of background and my sort of specialism, my research area is marketing and branding. Obviously, if you trade and use the British as part of your brand, I think it's really important that you remain within that ethos. And again, if you've been using Far East before, continue it. But maybe at this stage, maybe look at who's your tier 1 suppliers, who's your tier 2 suppliers, what are your relationships like them, how are they performing at the moment, and how is it unfolding? It is, and I think Faz, it's so unpredictable. None of us have been in this position before. So it's having a look at, what have you got currently? Is it working for you? What are the alternatives? And, is it financially viable? And how are your customers reacting as well?
And I think that's good advice. And there's also another question here, which is along the lines of, which I quite like. In recent times, it always feels like there's a demon on the horizon for my supply chain. If it's not Brexit, now it's COVID-19. Are there good methodologies, or are there good practices that people perhaps should be adopting to create a more secure supply chain? You mentioned tier 1, tier 2 suppliers. I don't know if you want to explain that a little further.
Yeah. So again, just looking exactly who. My sort of overall advice, and answer that question very quickly, Pete, would be, don't put all your eggs in one basket. Especially now, this is the time when you can really develop your different relationships. Who is your most important? So look at your tier 1 and spend some time really focusing on what do you need, when do you need, what quality level, what price, what do your customers want? And also something that's been really interesting coming out of the literature as well has been this sort of pent-up demand. What is going to happen? How are we going to sort of come out of lockdown? What do you think your customers are going to really want, after this is all over? So again, thinking about your supplies, I know for me personally, my daughter is a teenager. She can't wait to get back to Primark. And I'm sure there'll be other people in those sort of circumstances. What are people wanting to buy straight away? Maybe Faz, in your industry, you'll know that people actually want to get out of the house and actually have a proper dining experience rather than takeaways. So that's how I would respond to that, Pete.
And then coming back to you, Faz, an interesting question here that we've had from somebody that says delivery demand has gone through the roof, which is, reflects what you said. It's making it more difficult to give customers an estimated delivery time or day. And I appreciate for you, it's kind of, it'll be with you in X many minutes. And I suppose this is probably coming from a business that does deliveries of things that perhaps aren't immediately perishable. But it's the question I think probably is relevant, which is any tips on managing this or the customer's expectation?
Yeah, so the best thing is to be honest, to say if we are busy, we say to customers, it's going to be 2 hours. The last thing you want to do is say it's going to be 45 minutes. You turn up 2 hours later, they're annoyed, they'll send the food back. So be honest, just say it's really busy. They understand. If you say, it's going to be about a couple of hours, so my first thing is be totally honest with the consumer. They'll appreciate that. The second thing is what you can do is when we had that crazy weekend, which I told you about, we got taxis, sent over taxis. We didn't think about the profit margins. We had workers that were here, they took it on their bikes. We used every avenue we could. We use Uber Eats, so Uber Eats are pretty good. You can switch it, so if it's really busy, they will send their drivers. So things as much stuff as you can really do. We've now got a lot of local young boys who work here, and they're walking deliveries that are local. Some of them are like a couple of roads down. So that's how we've been kind of able to manage it. But we're not afraid. If we think the time is going to be a couple of hours, we will say to the customer, it's going to be a couple of hours, because it's not just the people delivering it, it's the people that are cooking it as well. If they've got a big load of orders in front of them, they're going to take at least an hour. So however fast your driver's going to be or whatever, you can't help how quick the food is going to be cooked. So my best thing is, be honest, use every avenue. When it's really, really busy, don't think about profit. Think about keeping your customer satisfied. So when we send it by taxis and stuff, we make zero. We make nothing, but the customer's happy. He's going to order next week, he's going to order the week after, or he's going to, otherwise, if you turn up 2.5 hours late and he's expecting it within the hour, he's going to get annoyed. And when people are hungry, I've noticed they get more annoyed. You know, they're really a lot more annoyed. I get it. I mean, I'm on Ramadan at the moment. I'm fasting the first couple of days. I'm in the kitchen. I work in the kitchen as well, and I can see myself getting quite flustered because I've not had a drink or anything to eat, and it's something people have been looking forward to as well as a treat. So, you know, I kind of say, look, don't look at profit. Just keep them satisfied. And, you know, we've had customers for 40 years, 20 years, 15 years. They will carry on shopping with you, you know, and customer service is essential. It really is, because we're at a moment now that a lot of the restaurants have closed, a lot of the takeaways have closed, some have closed, a lot of the KFCs are, you know, closed, they're reopening. So that last, where I said that busy period, nothing but kebabs, Indian restaurants, and a few others were open. KFC had closed, McDonald's have closed. They're only starting to think about reopening now. So we were like, there was a lot less competition. So I think that's why we were so busy. Now you want to try and hold on to them customers at whatever cost, you know, because they'll think, oh, I normally order down the road, but the Akash is open, so I have to kind of go to the Akash. And I think we're not going to get a weekend like that, because now you've seen Burger King have opened, KFC have opened 20 sites with a view to open 80, I think, by the end of the week. McDonald's are regrouping. So it's you know, you're at a place now where the competition is a lot less. And you've got to think, how can I retain that customer? So, he used to come to the Akash. He likes it. Now he's going to think, I like it at the Akash. You know, I'm used to. I want to carry on ordering from them. So when the other guys open down the road, he's kind of forgot about them, and he's thinking, I'm now loyal to the Akash. That's what we want to hope for. So my thing is, be honest with the customer, give them the best service possible now, because you're in a very lucky situation where they're coming to you, where they might have gone to others, and use every resource you can. You know, that's the kind of thing we're doing really at the moment. And it seems okay. You know, we seem okay. We had a blip sort of the weekend before, but you know, we think it's okay. But the other thing, as I'll say as well, a quick thing is always give back to the community. My dad gave a lot back, and he showed us, you know, he gave back to the local community. He done a lot of things for, you know, we're Bangladeshi, so a lot of Bangladeshi who newly came to Portsmouth, he translated for them, he helped them, you know, at no cost. He gave a lot back, and he always said, always give back. And I've noticed if you look after the community, they will automatically look after you. So they'll think, look, we're not going to go to these chains like McDonald's. We like the Akash. They're fed nurses. You know, we do a lot around the community. We like doing it. We're working on a thing next week, I think, hopefully touch wood, where we're going to supply food banks with the help of Portsmouth Football Club players. So Portsmouth Football Club players have Christian Burgess has rallied around and said, look, let's help the Akash. They're really good. So he's raised money. We're going to top it up, and we should be able to feed hundreds of people in food banks and in pumping the community. So, yeah, you know, it's that kind of stuff where the player, he came in contact with me. You know, we didn't approach him, and he said, look, guys, you know, because I talked to the guys, and I've said, look, business is quite bad. That was a 3-week period I told you where we had a 75% drop. So I said to him, it's quite bad, mate. It's going to be, we were thinking about closing and then reopening because it was costing us more to stay open. But we just got through that period. And he said, oh, look, you know what, mate, you guys do a lot for the community. We've seen it. And he went out, Christian Burgess went out and said to the players, can we get some money together? We want to kind of do a big order with the Akash, and we want to feed the food banks. So we've done that, but it's been delayed because we got so busy. And then I said, Christian, I'm really busy, but it's been delayed. But the good thing I can do now is we can top it up. So they were going to donate for X amount of meals. We can now top it up. So, but, you know, people really like that. We went on Mother's Day, went to QA and saw the nurses. They were working 12 hours. I had a friend there and I said, look, could we do something for you and stuff? So just to kind of boost their morale, we gave them sort of something like 40 chicken tikka masalas and, I don't know, 80 papadons, something like that, which, you know, we're buying it at a cost, and it's not costing us a huge amount, to be honest, to produce that kind of amount of food. But it went a long way. We didn't kind of really expect it, you know, to go. We put it on social media, and the response on social media and the comments, and people came back and they blatantly said on the phone, we're, you know, it's really good what you're doing with nurses. I think Liz, before we came on, you said to us, it's really good, you know, what you guys are doing. People have said, we've decided to shop with you today because of what you've done. So, you know, you look after the community will look after you automatically. That will go without saying.
Brilliant. And I think there's a nice point there, actually, which is that I think we probably could all agree that one of the great positives of this situation is it has driven more community behaviour. And I've certainly seen a number of local businesses emphasising the fact that they are local for you, and also doing things like not charging for delivery, but offering the option for people to elect to pay an additional delivery charge to support that business. And actually, I think as people see that value of maintaining the community around them, so there are options like that. And I think you're right. It's deeply important to continue to make sure you point out how local you are and how much you're part of their community, so that they think of you first. With that in mind, there's a couple of questions that we've had through, and I'll come to Liz, which is specifically around, in terms of how I present myself or present my business, and in terms of how I do my PR and my marketing, how do I give not the impression, but how do I convey the fact that my supply chain is sound and that I can supply? And would you have any sort of tips in that area?
Again, I would really, always be honest with everybody you're working with. But if you're looking at your brand, if you are going to have to change your supplier, how I would advise that is actually be honest and say, we have changed supplier, explain the reason why, and maybe just explain, the product might be slightly different. And something that I've seen, I think it was done in France, what they've been doing is they've actually been sending out samples of different supplier products. So customers are thinking, okay, it might not be the original, but I can see and taste and feel and touch the texture maybe of what the alternatives may be. So if you are going to be, using maybe a different supply chain, in the short term or even in the longer term because of circumstances, explain why, and maybe let people actually have a go at using little samples or reading a little bit more about the company that you're going to be using to support the customer at these times. So that's really important to be open and honest, and also keep all your relationships open, your conversations, and think about it as well. And I think Ben was contributing on the chat there as well, rather than just as a long line, it's a big circle, and network and try and keep the communication and transparency open between everybody.
Yeah, no, I was going to just come back to that actually, because Ben Harraway from Portico, which is the company that run the trade supply that comes through the Portsmouth port, is on the call. Unfortunately, the internet isn't stable enough for us to have a chat with him. But he has put here, in response to some of the questions about, how you maintain your supply chain, he's put, really go for supply chain visibility, know who your tier 1, your tier 2 suppliers are, get transparency and communication from your suppliers, and get a trust going between them. Think of the supply chain as a network rather than a straight line. So I think what Ben's trying to say there is if you get X from supplier Y, think of I can get X from suppliers Y, Z, and there's a network of them. I'll order some from here, some from there, rather than waiting for one supplier to run out and then having to find a new one or leverage that other one. So there's some good advice there. Alternative suppliers available, look local, national and international, he says, and look at alternative supply chains, so people who perhaps didn't manufacture in your area or supply in your area but could. and he just says here as his final comment, keep diversity within your supply chain, which I think is fantastically good advice. We're getting up to sort of 25 minutes now. We said we wouldn't last these more than half an hour. So I'm just going to go to you, Faz, for a final question, really, which is you've identified that business went through the floor. You then identified that business went through the roof in a different mode. And you've also identified that, much to my displeasure, although I may not be agreeing with on the podcast, KFC, Burger King, and now McDonald's, why you would go there over a decent curry is beyond me.
I agree, mate. I agree.
What are your plans to respond to that? So what are you going to do from today to say, we're the Akash, we've been here, since the beginning, and actually keep coming to us because you're going to get higher quality? What's your sort of plan of action, attack?
Well, we're going to carry on our local community work. We've been doing that for years anyway. We're going to, we've got personal service. People come in to see myself, my brother. So it's that personal touch that the big ones can't give you. So if you go to, Jamie Oliver's or whatever, I heard one of my customers actually saying, it was quite funny overhearing them say, do you know Jamie Oliver doesn't actually work at the Jamie Oliver's in Gunwharf? So, he's obviously, and I was like, yeah, he doesn't actually go there. But, it's that personal touch, you've got there. We're going to remain, loyal to our community, which I've said. But, it's that different thing that we can do from the bigger chains. We're going to promote ourselves heavily. We have a very good relationship with the university. We have a good relationship with the Navy. And all these personal relationships are really helping us. So, we can just keep doing that. They're at a different level. They are where they are, and we are where we are. And we can just have our USPs. I think that's all we can really do. But it will go down slightly, but we managed to stay open throughout the whole of this. Carluccio's went out of business within a week. So you could see like these big companies, some of them are living day by day. It took them 1 week and Carluccio's went out. I'm not saying the same for McDonald's. They've probably got bigger reserves. I'm sure they've got bigger reserves actually. But it's sometimes better to be small than big. You're living safely. While McDonald's had to close and while all the others had to close to regroup, we steadily went along. We didn't have to close. We didn't close one day. We didn't close anything. We regrouped internally while keeping our business afloat. That's harder to do if you have 300 stores or 400 stores. So, yeah, I could just say we managed to stay open. We managed to keep everything going. We've done it in a safe way. We took massive precaution. We're still taking massive precaution. Even our staff, they're 2 meters away. Our drivers, I haven't spoke to some of our drivers for a while because I'm in the kitchen a lot. They're at the front. Normally they'll pop in and we'd have a chat and stuff like that. So we've been able to manage the situation quite, I think, as best as we could. Although I haven't missed talking to some of the staff, actually, to be honest. Don't tell them that. But yeah, like I said, if another pandemic like this comes, I've learned a lot, but I think I can sustain our business and keep open and not having to, shut it, go back to the drawing board and regroup and stuff like that. So that's what I say. Even like I said, when we were really busy, when McDonald's and everyone had closed, we were the very few that were still open. And a lot of the guys weren't open. A lot of the not just the McDonald's and that. A lot of the restaurants, the local businesses, local restaurants, local takeaways, they were closed. A lot of them have opened up in the last couple of weeks now. They had to go back. They had to regroup. The pubs had to regroup. I know a lot of pubs are now just doing deliveries with food only. So we had to regroup, but we were okay to kind of keep being open and carry on, really. So that's what I say. We would still be open, I think, if there was another pandemic, really.
Okay, yeah. So I suppose what I'm hearing there from you to some degree is stay small, stay agile, stay personal, stay local is almost like a mantra for what you do. Thanks for your thoughts there,
Yeah,
Fez.
I think I'll just add one thing. Stay small, yes, but if you want to grow, that's great, but within your control, I think.
And I'm just going to come to Liz, which is to say, with a specialty area of yours that is tourism, I suspect shocks like this in the tourism industry are not that unusual. Are there any lessons learned from tourism that can be applied here?
Well, I'm an ex-Thomas Cook manager, so it has been a real roller coaster of a year for us. And to be honest, the industry, it's going through an incredibly sad moment, with the airlines, with the announcement from British Airways yesterday. I personally have got a lot of colleagues who are really struggling. However, I've got friends who are running travel agencies, and at this point, all keeping it local, looking after your own staff, making sure that they're safe, that their families are safe, resilience, agile, listening to your customers. If you cannot get somebody, overseas, the local market will pick up. So, getting your customers something that they want, but also fits within the current market as well, but will match demand. But it is looking after your staff, looking after your people, and and listening to what your customers want.
Okay, thanks, Liz. I'm probably going to finish down a final note from Ben, who's on the text from Portico. For those of you who weren't here at the beginning, and I've asked him the question, which I was going to ask him at the beginning, about what are they seeing at the port, what changes are they seeing, what's different, and he's put the port's cargo through has remained relatively stable. The majority of our cargo is fresh produce coming in. We've managed to continue operating to keep the supply markets supplied. Apparently, the nation's bananas are continuing to flow through the ports. That's probably a great relief. We have tried to ensure safety levels for our staff, kept our staff levels in the same, supported our staff as best we could throughout. So I think thank you to Faz, thank you to Ben on the text, and thank you to Liz for joining us today. Some fantastic messages there in terms of remaining an agile, independent business rather than small perhaps, keeping it local with the community and keeping it personal, but also considering how you create diversity and a network of suppliers. And also fantastic to hear that the Portico at the Portsmouth port is still flowing all those goods into the UK. So for those of you businesses who are thinking, has the rest of the world closed and nothing's coming in, it sounds like everything's flowing as it should be. Thank you very much, Faz. Thank you, Liz. Thank you, Ben. And we will see you all next